A tendency towards overwhelm is a significant problem for most adults with ADD or ADHD. To learn how to stop your overwhelm, you'll need to identify exactly what is setting it off at the moment you feel it, so that you'll know what triggers your overwhelm. I'm Bonnie Mincu of Thrive with ADD with training on how to stop overwhelm with ADHD. My first video, Chicken or the Egg, addressed overwhelm that's actually a symptom of a different problem, triggered by a feeling of frustration or helplessness when you're not able to do what's required. The real solution would be to deal with that primary problem, which is the real roadblock. For example, if you can't find what you need to start a project, then disorganization is the real problem, we can call it the chicken, that produces overwhelm, or the egg. That overwhelm then makes it even more difficult to focus on finding what you needed, much less organizing it, therefore feeding that cycle of disorganization and overwhelm. Now let's look at primary overwhelm, when overwhelm is actually your first response. Think of it as that deer in the headlights feeling when your brain just shuts down and can't focus. That kind of response can be triggered when you can't process information. Modalities are ways of learning or taking in information, such as seeing, hearing, or touching or movement. Everyone is stronger in some modalities and weaker in others. If you're only given information in a modality that's weaker for you, you may find it very difficult to process, which can trigger instant overwhelm, especially problematic for people with ADD, ADHD. I used to get overwhelmed back in the 90s at my corporate job whenever I had to ask my company's IT person to show me how to do something on the computer. He'd rattle off some verbal instructions, quickly show me what to do, and then leave. I wouldn't remember how to do it because I needed to see those instructions in writing. Plus, I needed to do it myself at the keyboard in order for it to sink in. I felt really stupid at the time because I hadn't learned about modalities. But it wasn't that I couldn't understand the instructions, it was the method in which they were delivered that kept my brain from keeping up. Imagine if hearing were your weakest modality. If your boss were to phone when you were out of the office with urgent instructions for several steps you needed to take, you might feel instantly overwhelmed. Your fear that you wouldn't remember everything correctly would make that overwhelm even worse. The solution here would be to make sure that you can write down what was being said so that you could refer to it. Now, if hearing is your dominant modality and you have more difficulty reading, you might feel instant overwhelm at seeing a dense document. Many people with ADD or ADHD also have a learning disability, such as dyslexia, that makes reading overwhelming. Or you may experience visual overwhelm in particular circumstances. I had a coaching client whose brain would shut down when confronted with anything in a chart format, and another whose overwhelm was triggered by looking at a typed list, even a small one. There was something about seeing information in those formats that triggered brain freeze and overwhelm for those individuals. If you've been avoiding dealing with important documents, it may be that visual overwhelm is stopping you. Print out the document and uncover just a small bit at a time as you read it, highlighting important phrases as you go. The kinesthetic modality refers to touching or movement. If you're strongly kinesthetic, you may find your brain processes better if you're able to be hands-on with the material, or if you're standing up or moving. Try listening to information while you're exercising to improve your focus. I've given you some examples of overwhelm triggers where changing your modality can help. But now back to the broader question, how do you stop your overwhelm in all areas of your life? Here's the first step. For a week or so, write down each specific instance when your overwhelm is triggered. Looking at a number of these episodes, you'll see what keeps on coming up for you. My procrastination tree tool will help you pinpoint your challenges that overwhelm and paralyze you. When the overwhelm is triggered by another problem, your real solution is going to lie in dealing with that problem, which is the root cause of the overwhelm. I'm giving a free live webinar to go deeper into solutions called Stop ADHD Overwhelm at the Root. Be sure to register for it by clicking the link or button on this webpage. When you do, you'll get the procrastination tree infographic to download. Then watch for reminders in your email from me, Bonnie Mincu of Thrive with ADD, and I'll see you in the webinar. Oh yes, please share this with an overwhelmed friend.